Take myself off mute. Let me share screens again really quick. Yeah, and Dinesh, again, thanks. I appreciate, for me, and as we go down this road with the IBI and TIBCO and the things that they're doing, the ability to be able to take all those great things that we see in the beginning and seeing kind of a live example of that, is very helpful. I know, hopefully to a lot of people that are watching. And it's one of the neatest things for me to be able to see as well, just to see how that works. And again, I know there's going to be lots of questions. I appreciate everybody. We've seen a ton of questions in the Q&A. And I want to thank Michelle Moody for taking a shot at getting a lot of those answered. We're going to go at the very end, and we'll have more time to be able to do that. So if you have more questions, feel free to. And I'm going to try, as time permits, to be able to go back through some of the ones that are already in QA. So if you haven't been watching those, to at least go back through those. I did want to make a quick mention, first of all, that the next webinar we're doing, and right now it's set for November, is going to be on TIBCO data virtualization. So for us, it's been a lot of things that we've heard from our clients as far as one of the missing things that they didn't have before. TIBCO provides that. It's a great tool that we've been able to use ourselves to be able to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do before, especially as efficiently. It's not something you use everywhere, but anyway, we're going to dig deeper into that subject. I think it's something that's very important, especially to a lot of the IBI people who came into TIBCO from IBI. It's something that was not a part of the iWay or IBI stack. I think will be interesting. So I encourage you already to be looking for that. We'll be sending out more information on that. And excited to be able to share on that topic as well. Now, again, this is an exciting topic for all of us. I've enjoyed putting this together with TIBCO Group completely. I appreciate TIBCO's help in putting this together and participating in this, and excited to see where this product's going and how we can continue to help you guys as far as making more and more great use cases come to life with this, and excited we go. So I think, again, like I said, Michelle Moody was a QA queen machine and answering those things. I appreciate that. It's always good to have the product team here to help answer questions. So some really good questions in there. Are there any new ones to come up? Well, we can kind of go back and well, first of all, there's two open ones, and I think we probably, I know we shared with one of the other questions that we would be sharing the actual recording of this video. We usually put it out on YouTube, and we'll share with everybody who came or everybody who registered the link to it. So you should be getting that hopefully soon, as soon as it's available. I think the follow-up question to that was, if they could get the PowerPoint slides with that. I think we'll probably have to, I know for us, we'll probably have to check with legal just to make sure we're able to share that. But, if possible, definitely we will. I think there's some really good information here, but we'll have to kind of see how that goes. We are trying to figure out how HTML page will take logic from a bunch of text files to show results in a new version. I think Mohammed had a few other questions. I don't know if this is a follow-up from one of his other ones. Michelle, do you kind of get where what we're asking there?
Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility that is offered to us via App Studio with what we can do on our HTML pages. In particular, when it comes to our filtering and our tasks and animations and different conditions that we can set that'll really manipulate the output that we're seeing on the pages. So I don't know specifically what Mohammed is asking for. It might be a little complex beyond what we can answer here today. I would suggest reaching out to support for a little guidance. They're very good at this. But we are working diligently on our designer pages. This is where we're looking to pull forward a lot of this great functionality that you're used to seeing in App Studio for your application development, and we're surfacing that now within our designer pages. So you'll start to see some of this complexity woven into your workflow as you're starting to assemble that content. So what you might not be able to do today, please stay tuned, because this is something that we are very much working towards, and a gap that we're working to fill.
Yeah, and I know in the past, Michelle, you had been able to use FX files or just report files just to produce some type of information, whether it was whatever XML or whatever it is that you could feed into your front HTML page. I don't know if that's what he's asking for, but it sounds like that's what you're answering. So.
Yeah, that's a big one. So that's not an 8207.28 that just came out. The big thing that we see there in closing that gap is around our filter chaining and really being able to incorporate that into your workflow, which I know a lot of our users are excited about. The next thing that we are looking at really is how do we give you a little bit more control over how we're populating those filter controls? Where are we pulling those values from? What are we targeting? A lot of the things that we can do today in App Studio in our HTML pages, you'll start to see more of that complexity come into Designer with that built-in responsive workflow already available to you. So please stay tuned.
Perfect. Perfect.
If I may add on, Tim, so I think looks like a lot of the business law in Muhammad's question, a lot of the business logic still resides in in his effects procedures. And if you were to build an application using WebFOCUS Designer with that business logic still residing inside of your effects files, you can certainly do that. Now, from a best practice standpoint, I think you'd want to take advantage of what Designer offers natively to you in terms of how you build your application. So it's a slightly different way, it's a slightly different way of how you build the application, but it's it's taking advantage of the native features that gives you the best results in the application.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think best practices and stuff, and unfortunately the changes that the product evolves as well. And I know that's frustrating for all the platforms I've ever worked in as well. So you see some of that too. And I've seen some questions in here about, move from version to version. Some of the stuff that I was using before now is not working this version. Or it's not, that's just, unfortunately, it's a part of it. The product has to continue to evolve to be able to offer the things we need to. And I do know that IBI in the past there's been challenges there, but I do know that they've made a lot of efforts to make that easier. So hopefully that will continue on in the future. So Rich, I think this is one that Rich actually sent to us before, and we had shared in the group. And I'll be honest with you, I forget. As far as training, I think it's had to do with training for reporting essentials part 1 and 2 before you can begin the designer training. And I'll let Tipco answer that one. I believe the answer was you don't have to, but I'll let them answer that. You don't have to, but you should. How that goes.
Yeah, this is Joanne. So you can take the training. It would be beneficial, but it's not required. In each of the courses, you'll find that they have the prerequisites listed on the registration page for the particular course. So it is helpful, but not required to take those 2 courses to do designer training.
Perfect.
And I also just add on and say that, the application that I showed, all the clarity that I got that we said was Richa's clarity. She was the one that was the brains behind that application. So, and we got a lot of support from her team in general. So thank you for that, Richa.
Absolutely. All right, one more on the open. We have legacy XFOCUS databases that have not been handled, that are not handled in Designer. But we need to rebuild with Designer data flow or create business views.
You know what? I don't have an answer for that as far as a limitation with XFOCUS databases. I would stay tuned because we are making some improvements with how we can stage our data and different types of data sources that we have available. If you're having specific trouble, if you haven't already, I do suggest reaching out to support and opening up a case with them for some further follow-up. Yeah, unfortunately, that's you stumped me with the last question here, Tim. I was doing so good.
We're always trying our best. It's so hard. No, and that's a good question. I can be honest with you. I don't think in the applications that we've built with Designer that we've come across XFOCUS as. I mean, I know they've been around for a number of years. We've used them, but with Designer, I can't say that we've used that. So I can't say that we have an answer for that as well. But so Gene, that's something that we'll look at as well. And I've got, I wrote down your name. I think we could probably find your email from registration. We'll definitely follow up with you on that as well, just to give you our thoughts on it. But like I said, support does a good job of answering that, but we're glad to follow up too. So I think Mohammed did post out here, but it's just a thanks and he'll contact. So I know we're at 3:30 and I'm trying to see, we still have a number of people that have stuck around. We are more than glad to kind of walk through some of these others. I don't know how many people are able to get in or have gone through. I think everybody's able to, but how many people have gone through and seen all the ones that Michelle did answer while we were going through it. But I think we're probably going to lose a lot of people if we just go through and start reading these things. So hopefully people have been able to.
One question I just wanted to address that seemed to come up in a couple of different ways. So we do have an authoring suite. That's really how we think about it. And that does include Designer, Info Assistant, App Studio. And so I just want to assure everyone that we're continuing to support all of the tools that are available in our authoring suite, and we're continuing to support the content that these tools are creating for us. So I know there's some concern, how much longer am I going to be able to leverage App Studio or Info Assist? Am I going to be forced to use Designer? We're not going to force anyone to do anything. There's a lot of great functionality and capabilities that is only going to be available to you in Designer. But for now, if there's some functionality that you can only do in your other tools, continue to use them. It is supported. As we move along and continue to close the gap, because that really is a core focus of what we're working towards with our authoring suite, some of the new functionality, but again, closing that gap and really consolidating and standardizing our platform with Designer. Once we get closer to having those gaps closed, we can then start communicating with you how we're looking to bring the content from our other tools into Designer seamlessly. We don't want you to lose content. We don't want to have you be forced to recreate everything that you've been working so hard on, especially, I know many of our customers have been with us for a very long time. So our repositories are just huge. There's a lot of wonderful things that we've built. We don't want you to lose that. So that is something we have in mind. And as that process starts to evolve, we'll continue to communicate with you in sessions like this and tell you about the exciting things and the plans that we have to help support you through those upgrades, through those migrations. And we'll do all that we can to really make that a better process and partner with you in that process.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And we've seen that as well. Again, I've been with IBI starting as a client back, I don't want to talk about how long ago it's been, and then working for IBI for almost 10 years in different capacities. So I've seen the same thing. There's always rumors what product's going to go away, what product's going to be replaced by, the Dev Studio back when there was a Dev Studio, which is no longer here anymore, was going to be replaced by IA, and then they made it to App Studio to make it even more robust. And so there's just the tools that are there to help support our clients, and I know that for IBI and TIBCO has been the focus all along, is just if the clients are needing it to do what they need to do, typically around now the product has to grow and there's lots of things that has to change, but thankfully they're always listening to people. So you did exactly what I was going to ask you. I was going to say if there's anything else in here particular that, as I know as you've been answering all these questions, you wanted to call out rather than me just reading all 20 of these things to everybody and putting everybody to sleep. Is there anything else in particular that you wanted to kind of point out that may have showed up multiple times?
Let's see. Performance was one that came up around our filtering. A lot of questions about filtering, and that's one of our core areas that we called out earlier when Joe was talking about what our focus is in our development and part of our product direction. Filtering is huge. It's really how we build these great applications. It's how we drill into and analyze the content that we're creating. So we have been making improvements with performance and optimizing how we're loading our filter values. We want to make sure that we're treating for those use cases where we're going against these huge data sets. We don't want to hold you hostage in your authoring process while we're waiting to, query the data sets just to populate a filter control. So we have things like manual filters that we're able to pull in and tie that to different segments or data sources. We've been optimizing the way that we retrieve the values. It's kind of an on-demand loading of our filter values. So instead of trying to query everything when a page first is brought up, we're starting to do it as you're interacting with the controls, and it's breaking it down into a faster response time, really, for our users. And it's even improving the load time for our pages overall and for the content overall. So those are things that we're really focusing on. As far as filtering and performance, filter expressions, really being able to create more complex filtering. It's something that IA does very well, so that's something that we're looking to bring forward into Designer. And to be able to continue to utilize that functionality. And again, as I think I mentioned, being able to give you a little more control about where you're going to retrieve some of those values. Are we going to external sources? Are we pulling that from a procedure that we're running when we load the page? Are we swapping to a different data source or a static list? So these are the kinds of things you'll start to see being integrated more and more into the product as we go forward.
Perfect. Was just looking through some of these myself again, just to see if some of these were kind of out of the ordinary, at least the ones we've kind of already answered in some way. Ben Maxwell, is there any way to create a hierarchy in a temp hold file? effects is run and the file is put into FOCUS, and I'd like to have a hierarchy against that file so I can drill around it.
Yeah, this is a great one. So I don't believe that we can build the hierarchies into our hold files and our staging tables. It's more of a flat list. However, we do have the great feature, I think we actually showcased today, our drill anywhere functionality, which allows us to really do that drilling and bounce around, and it's not dependent on a hierarchy the way that our auto drill functionality was. So we are looking for ways to improve that and give you a little more flexibility to traverse your data at runtime.
Oh, absolutely. I think even one of the other people on here mentioned that as well, so perfect. And Rob, can someone give us a definition of pixel purpose, what it means in the context of Designer? I don't think of it as being pixel perfect as there isn't object aligning, as I've used in other reporting tools that I consider pixel perfect development.
I think this speaks to our compound document functionality and our page layouts. And I think about the active documents that we can create. I think about PowerPoint slides and how we can really position content and have greater control over the layout that we have, and pull in multiple pieces of content, have those different components. So at the moment, we've just introduced our paginated canvas into Designer, which allows us to be able to create some more of those position-based formats, such as our PDF, and have a little more control over the orientation, the layouts, and some more flexibility there. That's a foundational piece that's going to allow us to continue to develop and be able to surface the compound document functionality and those page layout functionality pieces to really support all of that positioning that I think our customers are really looking to utilize.
Absolutely. Another one, I think I may have seen this one come up in multiple places, just had to do with, hold files. And I know that's not something
I was hoping you'd bring that up, actually. Yeah, because I swear almost every call that I've had with a customer, ultimately we land at hold files. So allowing our authors in their workflow to be able to stage their data and to set these up, it's super important. And I just want you to know that hear that. It's something that we're working on. I can't give you an exact timeline, but know that this is in our planning process. And it's one of the most requested things that we get from our customers. So it is a priority for us. And we'll do our best to try to deliver that to you soon. There's great value in being able to do that. And we want to give you that functionality in Designer.
Awesome. Yes, and again, we've heard the same thing as well. It's just I think it's a tool that's been so well received in the core product itself that every time we get a new tool, I remember IA was the same thing. When are you going to be able to do whole files in IA and that type of stuff? So there was one about PowerPoint presentations, which I know you answered, but I can bring it up again just for the sake of everybody.
Yeah, so again, that really speaks to more of that positioned formatting and being able to create more of those compound documents. It's really that page layout that affords us the ability to create those multiple slides and have content break and appear throughout our decks. So we're working towards that at the moment. We can only do it for now with single procedures. We don't have the ability to really assemble multiple pieces of content. But it's part of the foundation, like I said, that the paginated canvas gives us. It sets us up for being able to do that.
Perfect.
There was also a question on setting expressions. In the static filter from Glenn, the static filter, can you set expressions? And Michelle answered that, filtering is still a core core area of focus for us, but you can do natively or a GUI based expression filter. But what you can do is you can build you can build input boxes that are constructed around conditional filtering, and you can still construct your filtration as long as you know what to filter on, as long as it's not dynamic and you want to play around after you look at your data sets. If you know what you want to filter on, you can construct those operational filters.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's a good point. Thank you for that, Dinesh.
Sure.
Oh, there was one on FML, and again, I think pretty easy to answer that is just right now it still is available on App Studio as far as I'm aware. We've had a couple projects here and there over the years with that, but I don't know anything ever. You would know more than that. I've not heard anything about that coming to Designer or any of those capabilities.
Yeah, I don't have a timeline for that yet. Again, some of our core focus really is on our filtering capabilities, some of the application development capabilities. We really want to make sure that we bring that in, compound documents, some of that advanced reporting. We do still support the financial modeling language within App Studio. The fors, overs, recaps, labels, all of that is still there and available to you. And we'll think about how to bring that forward into Designer where it makes sense. We're not just picking up functionality and dumping it all into Designer at once. It's really a process and a thoughtful one, because we want to surface this to you in a workflow that makes sense. We want to surface it to you contextually so that you're not overwhelmed by all of the capabilities that WebFOCUS has to offer. We're an incredibly complex tool, so we have to be very careful about where we're surfacing items to you and surfacing that functionality. We want to keep it a simple interface. So that's easy to say, very hard to execute on, but it is something we're mindful of. So we're looking at those things that are often used and where it makes sense to put that in front of our users.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of goes to one of the other questions. I'm not exactly, it's a whole different ball field, but when you talk about one was, why is it so hard to go back between GUI and manual code? And, I think it just goes to the complexity of what you're trying to do. And, anytime you have a GUI development platform, it's expecting code in a certain way. And if you have your liberties and how that can be created, which the language for years has a little bit. That's why we always hear the word code tightening, as different things get out, because it has to be in a certain way to be able to support the new tools in there. So, but the complexity of, I think, what is available to be able to be done in the product just lends a lot to why that's always been something that's kind of been a concern. I know you already answered this question, but I just was browsing through and saw that.
Yeah, the being able to switch between the text editor and our tools, or to be able to even switch from one tool to another, absolutely has been a challenge for us, and it is something that does come up. Our user interface is designed to really tie into that core architecture. And what happens when we don't have a visual representation for the code that you're trying to do, and how do we gracefully work for that and solve for that? So those are things that we continue to talk about, and it's definitely going to be a challenge that we'll be looking to address as we move down the line, especially when we're talking about this standardization with Designer and not wanting you to lose your content. So what's going to happen with our InfoAssist content? We do want to get to a point where ultimately you can open that in Designer and it will do so gracefully, and we can continue to edit and maintain your content. But right now there's just too large of a gap between the tool sets, but that's what we're working to close. And like I said, as we continue to do that and start moving forward, we'll continue to work with you and get your feedback and communicate when we're ready to start making some of those transitions.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, again, that's something we hear too, and I've been hearing it for a long time. So one of the questions was about, I think, permissions with client and server administration. And again, I know you've already answered that, just for the sake of everybody,
Sure. So that's absolutely a concern, because we have a new interface. We're trying to really bring everything together into a common view that we can access. So we now have our user administration management center that really gives us access to all of those administration functionalities. So from one place, you can get to your client administration, the administration console, configuration, but you also have immediate access to server administration, so access control in your workspaces on your server side. I do want to assure you that that is all still tied in to privileges and to the security of the environment. So while as an admin who has full access, rights, you're going to be able to see everything. But if you're a user that doesn't have access to that, those items won't be available to you.
And that's been pretty consistent from tool to tool from what we've seen. using these things, whether it's whether it's IE, Info Assist, whether it's Dev Studio, whether you're a user within the dashboard. All those things are set, and you get to basically see the objects that you're supposed to be able to see, or even the reports or the pages or whatever it is. So.
Yeah, that's extremely important. Governance and security, that's not something we, take lightly. And we want to make sure that no matter what we're doing to improve a user's workflow, or if it's improvements to the interface or the experience, we want to maintain that core functionality that you rely on us for. And that secure governed content is a big part of that. So we're certainly not losing sight of that.
Absolutely. Another question Rob had was about Esri, and again, you answered it. As far as everything I know, Esri, as far as the platform is, and what you can do from a mapping is available, as part of licensing for that. The only thing I think I've ever heard of from a licensing standpoint is I think Esri themselves sells their own data that goes with it. So if you want to enrich it with some of their data that may come in certain things, but that's not typically something that we've seen a lot, at least. Usually you're just wanting to map the data that you have within an Esri map. So that's much longer answer to your short answer. Or I think Joanne actually answered that. Let me see if there's a couple of new questions out here. It says I have more out here. I think some people were just kind of talking back and forth. Are we going to get report rendering improvement? Did we answer that one? Improvement in the new version? Not sure if that's report rendering, like when the report's loading, or what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Like I said, we are, if it's rendering as far as load time and looking to optimize performance, those are things that we continue to invest in. But a lot of the underlying engines are still in place architecturally. So if we're thinking about some of the charts and visualizations, a lot of that is built off of a common architecture. We are looking to extend what we can do with our chart extensions and perhaps create some new visualizations, leverage some of the insights and visualizations that are being generated from the data science side of the house. So there will be new things that you get with Designer. So yeah, we're consistently looking to improve both performance as well as the types of visualizations we can offer to you.
Yes.
Yep. One thing I'll add to what you just said, Michelle, is anything that you add that's really custom, JavaScript. There was questions around, can I inject code into this? Can I build my own style sheets? Bring the application into that, into a set of style sheets, things like that. The more custom work we've done, the more issues we've ran into. So and that's one of the reasons why it's best to use as many native features from Designer as possible. And so, but I think as we've learned to build applications with Designer, I think the performance is also improved. That also kind of talks to the evolution of the functionalities within WebFOCUS Designer as well.
One other comment I saw in the open section was just a comment: many companies use WebFOCUS for corporate reporting more than analytics. TIBCO can get that on, and that is true. I think it's a mix, definitely a mix. But there are a lot, and you saw a lot of the screenshots that we shared on some of ours earlier, and a lot of those were, even customer-facing applications that scale throughout the web, and so that's always been a very big bright spot for what WebFOCUS can do, and that will always be something, as far as I know, and the people I've talked to. Michelle, you would know much more than I, but I've always heard that is definitely will continue to be a focus, and it was one of the reasons why. It's such a core part to what TIBCO is bringing in now, putting their products, because it is one of the best tools, if not the best, out there for doing just like you said. Now it does do a lot of stuff from an analytics standpoint, Info Assist and even Designer, from just plugging up to data and being able to do your own analytics of the data as well. But Michelle, you could probably answer that more as far as forward looking than I can. But I think that will always be a focus. I hope so, at least.
Yeah, no, it's one of the pillars that we stand on. Our enterprise reporting is, we know what we do well. So it's that core reporting functionality that is really a strong suit for us. It's one of our core functionalities. So we're looking to make sure that our tools adapt to allow you to continue to do that, but they're easier to learn. It's easier to train people on. We want you to be able to not have to learn, all of Focus Code to be able to do the things that you need to do to continue to create those great reports. And also our applications, that's another thing that we do really well. I think about our portals and the way that we can embed our content into other applications. It's not just our core reporting functionality, but it's also the ability to surface that up to, thousands of content consumers, which is another strong suit of ours. And I think these are two things that we do better than anyone in the TIBCO suite. And it's part of what we bring to the table and why people come to us as a tool. So we do have that in mind. And when we start to evolve and continue to improve our tool set, we're working very hard to not lose sight of what makes us so great and flexible.
Yes, completely. I think as far as the load time question, I think Mohammed offered a little bit of clarity. Load time after converting old reports. So I'm assuming if you've converted an old report into the new platform, how long it takes to load. And again, there's so many different things that there. So Mohammed, it may be something that we can all kind of have a conversation afterwards on, because depending on access, there's just so much data related things that would come in there. The platform itself, I don't know, that we haven't seen, at least when we convert reports from the old platform to the new, to be a significant issue as far as performance. If there wasn't a performance issue already where it came from the version it came from. So I hope I'm not misinterpreting that, but if that's what it is, then I think probably we could have a more detailed conversation, because there's lots of things that could be causing that. I think there's a lot of back and forth in there, but I think that's it. I think we cover most of the things in the Q&A, and we're quickly coming up at 5 o'clock. So I'll kind of let everybody go. I appreciate, like I said, we had a great show out today. Lots of people here. Again, appreciate TIBCO and their help with putting this on with us. It's been always have been so much fun. As always, like we mentioned at the beginning, if there are comments that you want, send them to us, please. Let us know if there's topics that you guys are wanting to hear about. We're more than glad and want to be able to cover things that are relevant to you guys today. That's the whole purpose of this. But I appreciate everybody's help and joining us today, and look forward to hearing from you guys some more. So I think that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Great day.